Oh no. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS show for Tuesday, April the 27th. I hope you guys are all having a good Tuesday. Yesterday was a terrific night. No way to go about it. Unfortunately for myself, I was unable to come up with that perfect combination to take down any contest last night. But hopefully you guys did, because pretty much every single line that we talked about yesterday went off except for Arizona 2. They were a little bit of a disappointment for us, which was unfortunate just because I played them quite a bit in the late slate. But overall, outside of Arizona 2, I mean, it was just an outstanding evening. So hopefully you guys had a good night. If you're new to the show, hopefully we have just as good of a night tonight. Anything that you see in the DFO in the Google Sheets can be available by joining DFO Premium for as little as $9.99 for the week. At the very least, it can be just a little test run because a lot of these things are going to be carried over into next year, and then you can sign up for next year as well. But if not, at least give me the courtesy of smashing that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Helps a ton. Feel free to drop any comments in the comment section or any questions, and I will get to those as we go. But we have an 8-game slate on our hands tonight. If you look on the top right-hand corner, those are our 8 games for tonight, and included there is the implied goals total for via Vegas, whatever Vegas has. So Marshark says took down the showdown, $12 single entry, and second in the $4.20 max, used 1 entry. All your plays. Awesome. Yeah, Marsharks, I actually was going to give you a shout out because I did notice you were at the very top of that $4 last night. I had the exact same lineup as you, except I played Thomas Chabot and I think Mike Smith, and you played UC Saros and Jacob Chikrin. So that was the difference. They were terrific. Nashville 3 was a miracle for me, along with Drysdale punt. Barely a double up win. Hey, barely double up is just as good as finishing first. And then, guess which lineup I picked for the late games? Yeah, Arizona 2 was pretty unfortunate. The Chikrin-McDavid combo kind of worked for me yesterday. Yep, absolutely did. Chikrin was on fire. Unfortunately, Arizona 2 did not have the game we were expecting. But, they buried me a little bit in the late. But overall, hopefully we all had a lot of success. So anyways, let's get into tonight's slate. We start with the goalies as always. So Washington will host the New York Islanders. It will be Vitek Vanacek starting for the Capitals, and it will almost certainly be Semyon Varlamov. He's been the better of the 2 goalies as of late. Sorokin started against the Caps on the weekend and struggled mightily, so it's got to be Varlamov tonight, I would imagine. The Rangers host the Buffalo Sabres. It'll be Igor Shesterkin versus Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. In his second career start, the Columbus Blue Jackets will go with Elvis Merzlikins. He'll probably get a lot of run here through the end of the season because Jonas Korpisalo is out for the rest of the year. Then I'd expect to see Jonathan Bernier for the Detroit Red Wings, but that is unconfirmed. The Pittsburgh Penguins and the Bruins will go at it again. Tristan Jarry against Tuukka Rask. The Devils will go with Mackenzie Blackwood, while the Flyers go with Brian Elliott. The Chicago Blackhawks host the Lightning. It'll be Kevin Lankinen, most likely against Andrei Vasilevsky. The Lightning don't have a back-to-back until Saturday and Sunday against the Red Wings, so I would imagine that's the next time we will see Curtis McElhinney, so look for Vasilevsky tonight. The Nashville Predators against the Panthers again. This is an interesting one. Dreger got hurt yesterday, so I would imagine we see Bobrovsky. I guess there is a chance we could see Spencer Knight, but I'd imagine it's Bobrovsky, but keep that in mind that it could be Knight, I suppose. And then for the Predators, I really have no idea. Right now, obviously, I've got Pekka Rinne up there. It is a back-to-back set. They've been riding UC Saros heavily. He's played great, but they got to give him a break eventually, especially in this condensed schedule. So, what did he face? Like 38 shots last night? You have to imagine tonight is a night to give him a breather. So I'm expecting to see Pekka Rinne, but again, they need the wins. Maybe they go back to Saros just because he's been so good. He is still young. You never know. But Pekka Rinne projected for me at this moment. That won't be confirmed until 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And then on the nightcap, only at 8:30 p.m., we've got the Dallas Stars against the Hurricanes again. The other 2 goalies that did not start last night will go tonight. Anton Khudobin for the Stars, Alex Nedeljkovic for the Carolina Hurricanes. So let's go back to the top. We've got the Capitals and the Islanders. This is a game that has Vegas has the Capitals at 2.8 goals for. The Islanders also at 2.8. So as you might imagine between these 2 teams, tightly contested matchup, not very high scoring, at least not really expected to be all that high scoring. The Islanders top line, really the only one that grades out above average right now. I'm a little concerned about going too deep into the Islanders, breaking down the Islanders game, because I'm expecting to see some lineup changes, at least some line shuffling tonight. Barry Trotz doesn't really like to provide us with a whole lot of information, but he does kind of just drop some nuggets, and he hinted that there's probably going to be some line shuffling that happens this evening. So it's hard to really be like, hey, these guys play these guys, stack this guy with this guy, because I really think that, these lines are going to change in warmups. The Matt Barzal line's been pretty quiet lately. The whole offense really has been pretty quiet for them for the most part as of late. So I would expect there to be some line shuffling. So that's another thing just to keep in mind. Luckily, it's the first game of the night. You'll easily be able to pivot if need be. But right now, obviously, we'll still talk about the matchups and stuff because they should hold up. At the very least, the matchup should hold up. So Barzal with Zajac and Eberle is what we have for now. The second line would be Del Cole, Nelson, and Palmieri. To me, I think tonight's probably the night we see Palmieri with Barzal, like the new setup. Yeah, I tried to clean it up a little bit. I know, to me, I got it on the big monitor. It's easy to spot like what's going on, but I realized watching it back on YouTube yesterday that it's a little bit smaller, kind of hard to see. So hopefully this cleans it up a little bit easier for you guys to see. So yeah, let's break this one down here. Alexander Ovechkin, if you didn't know, still out for the Washington Capitals. So the Capitals top line basically going to go, which right now is the Kuznetsov line with Tom Wilson and Daniel Sprong. Expected to see the majority of the top six, while the Nick Backstrom line is expected to see the bottom six most of the time. So what that means, Barzal basically is just going to avoid the Nick Backstrom line. The second line, the Nelson line, is going to avoid them a little bit as well. See a lot of that Kuznetsov line. And then the Pajot and Cizikas lines are going to see the majority of the Backstrom line. So avoiding the Backstrom line is objective number one. Since Mantha came over, that line really not doing a ton at 5v5. Pretty low event hockey, but that's kind of just the Capitals' MO right now. The whole team is pretty low event. But that Mantha, Backstrom, Oshie line has been superb defensively. The offensive numbers aren't great, but they're still clicking at a 60% Corsi for and 63% expected goals for rate. So that's all the coaches are going to be looking for, right? They don't care that the offensive numbers aren't gaudy. They are dominating puck possession. So that's good news for Washington too. They look pretty intriguing going up against the bottom six of the Islanders, who is pretty, obviously the Islanders are pretty good defensively. I don't think that this game is all that interesting from a DFS perspective, but if I were to target the Capitals, I think that second line is where I would go. The bottom six is a little bit shittier defensively, and then they just seem to be kind of their most dominant line right now, as you can see here by the rates on the right. And then as for the Barzal line, they would probably be the route I would go. They really are the only line that's kind of above average. And then the fact that they're just going to avoid that Backstrom line most of the night is kind of what matters. Their second best offensive line right now is probably that Pajot line, but they're going to see a lot of Backstrom tonight, so that should, that's not going to go very far. So Barzal going up against the Kuznetsov line for what was it here? 32% of the time. And then the other kind of 60% of the time is going to be against the bottom six of the Capitals. Not great matchups, obviously. It looks like a pretty low event game, pretty shitty game for DFS. But if you want to, building a ton of lineups, if you want to get exposure to a bunch of different teams, I think that you probably want to go the Backstrom line for the Capitals right now. And then the Barzal line, whoever that may be on his wings for the Islanders. Daniel Sprong at 3,000, I think, is still pretty intriguing. He's a guy with a pretty good shot. His shot volume has been super consistent as of late. Obviously, scored 2 goals in the last game against the Islanders. Playing time still a bit of a question mark, even though he's up on that top line. The Capitals really like to roll all 4 lines evenly, so he's still not going to see a ton of ice time, where some of these other guys that are getting kind of first line roles will. So I still think he's okay just because he's got a really good shot and he likes to shoot the puck. So at 3,000, I think Sprong's a decent punt option if you want to just go that route in this game and just kind of play some one-offs. I think that's a decent way. I think he'd probably be the best cheap one-off in this game. So moving on here to the second game, the Rangers and the Sabres. So according to Las Vegas, the Rangers are the highest implied total on the entire slate tonight at 3.9 goals for. Obviously, though, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen played pretty decently in his first career NHL start against the Bruins. Got off to a bit of a shaky start, but settled in pretty nicely. He's obviously a pretty highly touted goaltending prospect, but Vegas still really likes the Rangers tonight, and for good reason. I mean, they have been extremely good offensively as of late. Overall, the offensive numbers at 5v5 are still lagging behind quite a bit of these, behind a lot of these other teams. But their power play is absolutely lethal. So they should be able to get the job done tonight. They should be able to score plenty of goals against Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And then, on the flip side, the Sabres are still not that great. I mean, they've improved since, firing Ralph Kruger. But defensively, they're still all four lines grayed out below average. Offensively, all four lines grayed out below average. So they're still not that great of a squad. Playing much better hockey than earlier, but that's a pretty low bar. So the Rangers definitely piqued my interest tonight. I just still have a hard time really trying to figure out who to play from this team because at 5v5, they're pretty shitty. I mean, this top line with Zibanejad, Lafreniere, and Buchnevich still very poor at 5v5. The second line still below average, but a little bit better. This third line really piques my interest. They had a nice game against the Sabres the other night. Their underlying numbers are really, really strong right now since bumping Chris Kreider down there with Kaapo Kakko and Filip Chytil. And Kaapo Kakko is really starting to come on here in the last month or so as well. So that third line right now looks pretty intriguing. But let's take a look at the matchups and figure out who the best to target is. So the top line, the Zibanejad line, is going to see a ton of Sam Reinhart tonight. We'll also see a little bit of the third line of the Sabres. The second line, the Strome line, is going to basically just play against everybody except for the Reinhart line. We'll see a little bit more of the second line, the Mittelstadt line. Then the third line is just going to face everybody except for the fourth line for the Sabres. So it's just it really, there's no like good matchup or bad matchup against Sabres. They're all pretty bad defensively. Nobody's got a Corsi for above 45. So it's all pretty much good matchups. There's not really one that you should, target extra, more than the others. So to me, I think all three lines are in play for the Rangers tonight. I still always lean more towards the Panter and Strome line, but I do have I do really like that Kakko, Kreider, Chytil line tonight. They grade out, still pretty poorly just overall because they don't play a ton. But they're relatively cheap, right? At 13,700, they're a nice value stack option tonight. So I do like them quite a bit. But I think the only way to really target this game and target the Rangers, if you really want to go all in on the Rangers, would be through the power play. They have the best power play advantage on the entire slate tonight. They draw a ton of penalties. The Sabres are a pretty disciplined hockey club, but when they do take penalties, they have the second worst penalty kill on the entire slate. And then the Rangers sit with the top power play unit on the slate. So they appear to have a huge advantage at 5-on-4. So that would be the way to go. I don't love, which it's become a theme of this year, I don't love Zibanejad, Buchnevich at 5v5, but obviously they're very successful on the power play. So I do like the Rangers a lot tonight. They're going to be wildly popular, but power play stacking them is probably the route to go. The problem with that is it's very, very expensive. I mean, Adam Fox is 7,100 now, but he's got like 41 or 42 assists on the season. So he should be 7,100. He should win the Norris Trophy too. But to power play stack, I mean, Panarin's 8,500, Strome 6,700, Zibanejad 8,100, Fox 7,100. I mean, it's tough, but because they're so expensive, because it's so tough to stack them, that full power play unit, I think it should go relatively low owned. And if we can find some decent punt plays to go with them, last night Jake Wallman was terrific for us. If we can find somebody like that, it makes playing them a little bit easier. So that's going to be my job here for the rest of the show, is to really find some value plays that we can stick up there with the Rangers' top power play unit. So that's that. I don't really love the Sabres tonight. They did their job there for a couple weeks. The Rangers are playing so well right now. And then the Sabres, the second lowest implied total on the entire slate. Oh my God, I keep doing that. And then if we look at the goalie chart, Igor Shesterkin grades out as the second best goalie. So I do like, I don't know what's going on there. I do like Shesterkin a lot tonight too, so I don't really have any interest in the Sabres. Moving on here to the third game, the Red Wings and the Blue Jackets. I mean, what a shit show this game's going to be. Yeah, I mean, the Red Wings, I guess the one thing that's worth watching if you're a Red Wings fan is Joe Vellano makes his NHL debut tonight. He's going to center the third line with Richard Panik and Sam Gagner. They grade out very poorly, but I mean, obviously we don't have any numbers on Joe Vellano just yet. The Blue Jackets top line is really the only one that grades out well. I can't really even decipher who their top line is and who their third line is right now, but we have it as Eric Robinson, Max Domi, Oliver Bjorkstrand. The second line being Liam Foudy, who draws back in tonight with Roslovic and Line, Atkinson with Texier and Grigorenko on the third line. So this game is bizarre. I don't know what to do with this game. Let's take a look, though. So the top line is going to basically just avoid the Red Wings' second line. The second line is going to see a variety of all four lines. Not really a whole lot of hard matching in this game. And then the third line is going to see 45% of their ice time expected to come against Detroit too. So who should you target from the Red Wings, I guess, is where we should start in this game. And it's similar to the Buffalo Sabres. They're just not very good defensively. So there's nobody really worth avoiding here from the Red Wings side of things. I think just their top six right now without Larkin is just a total tire fire. So, attacking them is obviously probably a pretty decent idea. But the Blue Jackets, really, all four lines are pretty bad. The top line's really the only one that sticks out as being, okay. They're slightly above average. The other lines are all pretty brutal. So, if we look at the power play report, both teams well below average on the power play. Both teams' power plays absolutely suck. The Red Wings penalty kill is not very good, but both teams don't draw a lot of penalties. Both teams are pretty disciplined. So this game overall looks pretty brutal. The one player, I guess two players kind of stick out to me, though. I do, it does look like CBJ1 has a bit of an advantage. So to me, that just, Oliver Bjorkstrand sticks out a little bit as a one-off play. Maybe, a cash game option. He does like to shoot the puck. He's been pretty hot as of late. He's only 5,500. He's done plenty of damage against the Red Wings in his career. Not that I read too much into, career statistics, but, sometimes you just have a team's number. And Bjorkstrand certainly has that against the Red Wings. Let me just pulling it up here. He has, 3 goals, 12 points in his career against the Red Wings in 15 games. So pretty solid numbers across the board. So I like him at 5,500. But then Patrick Laine has to stick out a little bit too. He's $4,500. He's just way too good. He's just way too good to be like 4,500. I know it's been a brutal year. He's only got 12 goals, 21 points in 41 games. He's barely shooting the puck right now. Sometimes he gets benched. But at 4,500, I do think he's worth a shot in the dark tonight as a potential one-off play. I mean, if you're building a lineup and you have $4,500 left over, it's hard to find somebody with kind of the upside that Patrick Laine has, especially in a game against the Detroit Red Wings. But Peter B says Bernier all the way, and David says, I would like to see goalie ratings for this game. Do both have top-end potential? Well, it's funny you say that because, yes, they do. Jonathan Bernier rates out as the 5th best goaltender on the entire slate. He is only 7,100. So I agree. He looks like an outstanding GPP target at 7,100. The Blue Jackets, I think that, the Blue Jackets could definitely win this game, but so could the Red Wings. I mean, it's just an impossible game to tap, to really figure out, as bad as these two teams are. So at 7,100, I don't really love playing Merzlikins at 8,000. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me when you can play Bernier at 7,100. To me, they feel like they both have a pretty good chance of winning this game. And then just hopefully it's low scoring. But yeah, I think both goalies are pretty are definitely in play. To me, though, if you're paying 8,000 for a goaltender, I'd rather pay up for somebody like Shesterkin at 8,300, who just, he's got a reliable offense in front of him, and you would expect him to win. You'd expect the Rangers to beat the Sabres more than you'd expect the Blue Jackets to beat the Red Wings. So I don't love Merzlikins tonight, but I do like Bernier quite a bit. He's the second or third cheapest goalie on the entire slate. The matchup is super good. So Vegas still has Columbus winning this game. 3 expected goals for, implied goals total for them. obviously they're expecting them to score some goals, but they were also expecting them to score, the Stars to score a bunch of goals the other night. And Bernier, what did he have? 51 saves. So he's playing terrific hockey. He has all season long. So if you're not playing any Blue Jackets, I think Bernier makes a lot of sense. But yeah, that's that for that game. The fourth game of the night is the Bruins and the Penguins. So to me, this game is kind of going to make or break this slate. I don't really know what to do with it, so maybe I'm reading too much into it. Both teams' top sixes are playing really, really well right now. Both teams did a great job solidifying their second lines at the trade deadline. The Taylor Hall trade has been terrific for the Bruins. That second line has really flourished since he came over from the Sabres. But Jeff Carter acquisition from the Kings has done a lot for the Penguins as well. That second line's really done a nice job as well. With Jeff Carter, Jared McCann, Jason Zucker. So both teams making two pretty nice trades at the deadline. They didn't give up a whole lot. Two very nice moves that really solidified their secondary scoring, and both lines are playing great right now. And then obviously you've got the two elite lines, right? You got Boston 1, who is a little bit cool right now. David Pastrnak really not playing that great right now. And then Pittsburgh 1's just been terrific all season long. So you got these two juggernauts going head to head. It's very difficult to figure out what's going to happen. I mean, what was the score on the weekend? 1-0, I believe, on Sunday. To me, it has a feel of that potentially low-scoring game again in that game. So let's take a look at the matchups here first. Pittsburgh 1 and Boston 1. So the two juggernauts are going to go head-to-head. The middle sixes are going to kind of duke it out, and the fourth lines are going to duke it out. So on the weekend, the two top lines basically just sawed each other off. They kind of both clicked at about a 50% Corsi 4, didn't give up a whole lot, didn't generate a whole lot. And then in their limited minutes against the other lines, both lines had pretty good nights. So in Pittsburgh 1's limited ice time against Boston 2, they had they did a pretty nice job. The same thing goes for Boston 1 and their limited ice time against the bottom 9 of the Penguins. They did a nice job, but neither line really dominated. But both top lines were definitely the alphas in that game. The second line struggled a little bit, more than they have kind of, since the trade deadline. So it's kind of a difficult game to figure out because it's hard to be like, I don't know, is Sidney Crosby or Patrice Bergeron going to win this matchup? I have no idea. And to me, it's very even. If we look at the the stats here, they're basically carbon copies of each other, right? I mean, the numbers are almost identical across the board. They're the Bergeron line is probably a little bit better defensively, and then it's tough to say. Like they're almost identical at 5, at offensively. If we look at the rates, obviously Boston won a little bit better, 64.4 Corsi 4, 61.6 expected goals for percentage. The issue I have is just that they haven't been playing that well. Pastrnak hasn't been very good as of late, and to me, it's very difficult to pay $8,400 for Pastrnak, who has cooled off a little bit here. To me, I want to fade both of these lines, but I feel like one of them is going to go off. I just don't know which one. I think I probably lean a little bit towards Pittsburgh 1 as opposed to Boston 1. Just because Tuukka Rask has not been all that sharp. To me, that's the difference in this game. Rask has not been great. Obviously he had that 32 save shutout against the Sabres, but then he followed that up with 4 goals against the Sabres. Against the Capitals, he gave up 3-33. So he's been okay. Like he's, very Tuukka Rask-like, but just not all that sharp. And then, you got Tristan Jarry, who's been pretty good as of late. He obviously had that stinker in the third period against the Devils, but outside of that, he's been absolutely lights out, for basically all of April. So I like Pittsburgh a little bit more. I'm probably going to fade both lines. So I just don't know who to play. And to me, paying up for them when it's so uncertain is very difficult. So I'll probably pay down and try to find some cheaper options with a little bit more certainty surrounding them. With the second lines kind of going head to head, both have been really, really good. Both are pretty good defensively, though. So the same thing. They should kind of saw each other off. And then in their minutes against the top lines, they're going to struggle. So to me, I just don't really lean one way or the other in this game. I think it is, I'm glad that, Vegas kind of agrees with me. 2.8 to 2.8. You're splitting hairs here. It should be relatively low scoring. So at the price you have to pay, for both teams' top lines. I think I'm just going to kind of avoid it. And the second lines are kind of, like I said, saw each other off and then kind of struggle against the juggernaut line. So, and then on the power play, Pittsburgh slightly above average. I shouldn't say slightly above average. They're about the fifth best power play advantage on the slate. Mostly just because the Bruins are terribly undisciplined. But they have a pretty good penalty kill. So it's just, I don't like this game that much. I guess I was a very long-winded way to tell you that I don't like this game that much, but I hope that kind of helped you figure out why. Mike C says Swayman is the future. Yeah, Swayman, I think like unofficially, he's the NHL leader in goals against average right now. I don't think he's played enough games to qualify, but who knows what that even means in a 56-game season. So he does look really, really good, but obviously they're not going to just completely go away from Rask, but he needs to play better or Swayman's going to get a lot of starts. But fifth game of the night, the Devils and the Flyers, a very interesting one. So the Flyers are a weird team right now, right? Like, am I the only one that thinks that? Like, I can't be the only one that just does not know what to do with the Philadelphia Flyers. They play brutal, then they play okay, then they play brutal, then they play okay, and then they play well, then they play brutal for like 4 games in a row. So yeah, I don't really know what to do with them. I mean, they had a nice game against the Devils a couple days ago, but overall they haven't been very good as of late. So this game to me is weird, but Vegas really likes Philadelphia tonight, so I'm going to have to find a way to jump on board because they know a lot more than I do. But the Devils' top 3 lines all grayed out with a bigger advantage at 5v5 than the Flyers. So let's find a way to target the Flyers. But obviously, the Devils look pretty good, and we are going to continue to talk about them. So in this game, not really a whole lot of hard matching going on. The Hughes line is going to avoid Scott Laughton a little bit, but it basically just looks like just a free-for-all, which makes this game a little bit more difficult to break down. Since trading Travis Zajac, the Devils have been a little bit more lenient with Jack Hughes' matchups. At the start of the year, he was just getting the third and fourth line or just the fourth line almost every game. But as they've continued to play better, as you know, they've become one of the better 5v5 lines in hockey. He's gotten, the tougher matchups, which from a DFS perspective kind of sucks for him. But 25% of his ice time isn't going to come against Sean Couturier tonight, which is not ideal. But overall, that line has been absolutely lights out, just ridiculously good. 64.8 Corsi for percentage, 68.4 expected goals for percentage. So they look great. The problem is the Flyers are pretty solid defensively. I guess their top 9, their fourth line's not very great, but the Devils' top line to me is still in play. They're a line that doesn't garner a whole lot of ownership. So I do like them. If you're building a lot of lineups, I do like sprinkling them in tonight. Brian Elliott hasn't been very good this year, so I do like the Devils quite a bit more than Vegas does tonight. That top line, I don't play Yanni Kuokkanen very often, but I do like Jack Hughes. He's just been really good here in the second half of the season. Really good pretty much the whole season. But the second half, he's really taken his game to a new level. He's playing a ton. He's playing like over 20 minutes a night. He's shooting the puck like crazy. So here's his last 6 games. 4 shots, 4 shots, 4 shots, 4 shots, 5 shots, 6 shots. I mean, what more can you ask for out of the kid? So I like Jack Hughes a lot at 5,500 still. Sharon Govich coming up to 5,000 is, kind of unfortunate, but it took long enough. He's just been really consistent as well. So I do like him. He hasn't been afraid to shoot the puck, plays a ton. So I like them as a mini stack still. The second line, though, looks pretty interesting as well. They've been really, really good since, Brad Hischier and Zach have been put together. They played quite a bit together last year, too. They're not quite as good as New Jersey 1, but they're a reasonable alternative to New Jersey 1. If you don't, they'll come at next to no ownership, I'd imagine. Brad has quietly had a really nice season. He's up to 5,000, but still pretty reasonably priced. Hischier at 5,700, not a bad price for him. But I still like, I like Hischier as a player. But from like a DFS point of view, I think that, Hughes is a little bit of a better option for $200 cheaper. But I would imagine, I don't know. I don't know. I can't really decide on ownership in this game, but I would imagine both are extremely low owned. And I think that that's a good spot to get a low owned contrarian option tonight. Because like Brian Elliott, 896 save percentage on the season. And the matchup isn't great, but it's not terrible. And both lines have had a lot of success at 5v5 this year. On the flip side, we got to find some goals for the Flyers somehow. I don't know where they're going to come from. But the line that you want to target from the Devils is that third line, their checking line of Mike McLeod, Miles Wood, and Nathan Bastian. So who's going to play the most against their third line? It will be the top two lines of the Flyers. So the top six basically going to see identical matchups. They're going to see the Hughes line and the third line. And then, you can see what's going on with the bottom six. But so yeah, obviously when they're out there against Hughes, it's going to be tough. When they're out there against the third line, they're going to be able to have their way. But both top, the top six of the Flyers not getting a whole lot done offensively. So to me, I would go to the power play to break that tie. The Flyers do have a very nice power play advantage tonight. Their power play is okay, slightly above average, not great, not too bad though. But the Devils' penalty kill, total nightmare. So the power play is really going to break the tie for the Philadelphia Flyers. So let's go to dailyfaceoff.com to figure out who we want to play there. So obviously, I think, that top power play unit, you've got Giroux, you got Couture, you got Voracek, and then boom, they're all together on the top line. So to me, that is the way I would go. They're both not great at 5v5, but that top line does have the power play correlation. Obviously, the second line all fully correlates as well, but just on the second unit. So to me, I would be going with that first unit, that first line. So Philly 1 would be the way to go for the Flyers tonight. They do grade out the best. 5,600 for Giroux, 7,000 for Couture is a steep price to pay. 5,300 for Voracek's not great, but they had a really nice game against the Devils the other night. Hopefully they can roll that into tonight. So that would be the way I would go from the Philadelphia side of things. And then for the goalies for the last couple games, let's get to those. So yeah, Giari and Rask both grade out third and fourth best. Just going back a game here, strictly because, both are pretty solid. Both should see a decent amount of shot volume. Vegas really has no idea who's going to win this game, but it should be relatively low scoring. So they both look pretty good. Blackwood, not great. But at 7,200, he's a decent option. But to me, I would rather just play Jonathan Bernier than Mackenzie Blackwood, and then Brian Elliott really looks bad. Plus he's $8,000, so absolutely not happening tonight. So yeah, the sixth game of the night, we've got the Blackhawks and the Lightning. Peter B says, I'm one offing Miles Wood. Yeah, you do that. Go for it. I just don't like Miles Wood, but he just scores. I don't know what it is. Kid just scores. 4,100. He does shoot a lot. He's got goals in back-to-back games. Plays a decent amount. He just scores. He's been scoring all year. He's got 16 goals. But, at 4,100, I think you can probably do a little bit better. But if you want to, you came into this with your mindset that you were playing Miles Wood as a one-off, I can get behind it. I'm fine with it. All right. So what did I say? Sixth game of the night, we've got the Blackhawks and the Lightning. So Tampa 2 grades out a little bit better than Tampa 1, but they're very even. Tampa 2, obviously a little bit cheaper. Chicago 1, Chicago 2, Chicago 3, all below average. For the Blackhawks tonight, doesn't change a lot, but Dylan Strome does draw back into the lineup, most likely centering that third line. This is another team where you just never know what's going to happen with their line combinations. They fluctuate mid-game constantly. They give us virtually no information, so it's tough to say. But they've been sticking pretty true, at least to start, with Kirby Dach. Pius Suter next to Patrick Kane. So that's kind of what we just continue to roll with. Matchups in this game. Chicago 1, 50% of their ice time is going to come against that Anthony Cirelli line. Okay. Chicago 2, just basically going to avoid that top line. And then I guess all that really matters is that you got Braden Point going up against the bottom six of the Blackhawks pretty much all night long. So let's focus on that one to start. So the bottom six of the Blackhawks is a little bit better than, defensively than the top six. Obviously, that's why they do it. They are their checking lines. So, not a great matchup for Braden Point, but they're starting to get right again. They got cold there for a little while, but they're starting to get hot again. Obviously, had a terrific game against the Blue Jackets the other night. Alex Barré-Boulet seems to be fitting in well there. They fully correlate in the top power play unit. So even in, the Chicago Blackhawks bottom six is a little bit better defensively than their top six, but they're still basically very, very average tonight, or very average overall. So I do like Tampa's top line tonight. Obviously Vegas, a 3.5 implied goals total for the Lightning. So there's got to be goals to come here. And I would imagine that, it's got to come from that top line. It's their best offensive line. It's, they fully correlate on the top power play unit. So you got to like Tampa 1, even in, maybe not the greatest matchup. I can't play that third line, that Cirelli line. It is a nice matchup against that Patrick Kane line tonight. They're not very good defensively. But where I would go a little bit more towards, maybe the second line of the Lightning, they're obviously putting up pretty dominant numbers. I mean, 60 expected goals for percentage is great, 55.9 Corsi for really good. They are going to see a decent amount of this top, the second line. They're going to see quite a bit of this top 6. So they should have some success. They shouldn't see a whole lot of ownership. I probably would leave Gaudreau off. I don't play him very often, but Blake Coleman looks really, really nice at 3,600. He's just a shot volume machine. So yeah, Blake Coleman looks like a really nice one-off at 3,600. I could get behind Gord at 5,600. Them as a mini stack looks okay. But Coleman's probably the best, one of the better one-offs on the slate at that price. And then obviously I think stack-wise, I would prefer that top line from the Lightning. Based on the power play report, they look solid. The Blackhawks penalty kill is not great. The Lightning power play has been so-so. So yeah, not a whole lot of advantage there. Same goes for the Blackhawks. I just can't really get behind the Blackhawks tonight. The Lightning are just too good defensively. Andrei Vasilevsky's starting. Chicago Blackhawks offense has been pretty dormant as of late. So I just can't really get into it. I tried to talk myself into it before the show. I just couldn't really find where to, how to play them. I mean, when we look, like they're all 4 lines are the exact same, just average. And then you got the Lightning, who are a pretty good defensive team. So I can't. I tried. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. Giroux, Voracek, or Hughes. That's pretty brutal, to be honest with you. Probably Hughes. He just is playing on the best line at 5v5. He's on the top power play unit. His shot volume has been amazing. After him, it would probably be Hughes, Giroux, Voracek. Voracek's definitely number 3 in that group. Giroux and Hughes are almost identical. I would go Hughes by a hair. I just think they're better at 5v5. So I'd go Hughes by a hair, but I like Giroux too. Peter B says, seems odd they don't put Coleman on any power play units. Yeah, guy's never seen any power play time ever. But he's awesome. I love Blake Coleman. All right, 7th game of the evening, the Predators versus the Panthers. So yesterday we were all over Florida 2. They had another great night. Absolutely crushed Nashville 2. I said fade Florida 1. It worked. I said play Nashville 3. It worked. They were great. They had 2 goals. They were all around it again. So a lot of those things still ring true for tonight. So one of the issues though yesterday, if you didn't fade Florida 1, is that we had Nikita Gusev on the top line, and then they decided to throw us a curveball and put Noel Acciari up there. Pretty unfortunate. That didn't work at all. And then like 4 minutes into they played like 4 minutes together, and then they put Gusev back up there. So we have Gusev back on that top line again tonight, which really boosts their offensive numbers. So let's talk matchups here first. So yeah, Florida 1, Florida 2, both grayed out exceptionally well. The rest of this game looks pretty blah, but the top line from the Predators still looks like Nashville 3. Matchups. So let's just talk about the Panthers. They're who we have more interest in. The top line, the reason the top line grades out better than they did yesterday is because they actually saw more of Nashville 2. They saw more of Nashville 2 than we were expecting. So they're basically going to just avoid Nashville 3, which is a good thing. Nashville 3, as good as they are offensively, they're pretty bad defensively. They play very high event. So really not a whole lot of hard matching going on in this game. But overall, the Predators aren't very good defensively. That second and third line are really bad defensively, but the whole team grades out below average defensively. So going, no hard match, really seeing a lot of the first and fourth line is pretty good. They're better of the 4 defensively, but still not very good. So, the matchup is pretty solid for Florida 1. I still prefer Florida 2, they're just going to see a little bit more ice time against the second and third lines of the Predators, which are terrible defensively. If we look at the D scores, Nashville 2 grades out as the second worst defensive line on the entire slate. Nashville 3 as the eighth worst defensive line on the entire slate. So really good matchups. And then they post very similar numbers, almost mirror image numbers to the current Florida 1. So I still prefer Florida 2 tonight, but I can definitely get behind Florida 1 as well. They look solid. Gusev at 38, Vellano at 49. Hopefully they have a little bit better games than they did yesterday. Gusev still actually looked okay. Huberdeau, yeah. Graham says Huberdeau hurt me yesterday. The only one who did big bounce back tonight. I mean, yeah, like he's terrific. He's only 6,200. That line looks like they're in a terrific spot. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a big night tonight. If they have a big night, I don't think that they're going to have very many games where, they have a big night and he doesn't. That's just not going to happen. So, yeah, I like them as a whole, and I would expect a pretty big bounce back from Huberdeau tonight. And then, yes, the Sam Bennett train rides on for sure tonight. It's an outstanding matchup. But the Nashville 3 still needs to be talked about. They're just going to basically avoid Florida 4. So, yeah, I mean, obviously the Panthers are very, very good defensively. But these numbers from Nashville 3 are ridiculous. 37 scoring chances, 4 per 60, 18 high danger. They graded as the best offensive line on the slate. Again, still a relatively small sample size, so they're not the best offensive line in hockey. Obviously, it's not what I'm trying to say, but they're putting up really good numbers here, since Matt Duchene came back. But like I said yesterday, to me, they're not really a line that you want to be building around because they're not going to do what they did last night every single night. But every game that, since Matt Duchene has been back, they've been around it. They've been generating scoring chance after scoring chance after scoring chance. So, to me, they are the perfect mini stack, Matt Duchene and Eric Howlett. They're still ridiculously cheap. Eric Howlett at 3,400, Matt Duchene at 3,500. They're a very nice way to round out any lineup. To me, I'm not going to have 100% ownership on these guys, but at that price tag, it's very, very appealing. So I do like them quite a bit again tonight. But outside of that, I can't really get behind the Predators because overall they're not that great at 5v5 outside of that line, and then the Panthers are very, very good at defensively, and then it's just it's easy to pay make the gamble on Howlett and Duchene at 34 and 3,500. It's a little bit more difficult to pay 6,300 for Arvidsson and 4,500 for Tolvanen, and the second line. As much as Granlund has been getting it done lately, they're terrible. At 5v5, so not terrible. They're just not very good. So yeah. That is going to do it for that game. I guess I should probably talk about the power play. Florida looks really good on the power play tonight, too. Very good power play. They draw a ton of penalties. The Predators take a ton of penalties. And so, yeah, they look really good on the power play, too. So, all aboard the Panthers train tonight. They should have a big – and if Pekka Rinne starts tonight, my God, they're going to crush them. UC Saros is the only reason Florida didn't score like 7 goals last night, right? I mean, it could have been way bigger. So, I love Florida tonight, especially if Rinne gets to start. Even if it's Saros, though, on back-to-back, come on. Love to go with Howlett Duchene again, but don't like me gambling twice on them in back-to-back games. Yeah, like if you're making one lineup, I think you could probably find a spot to a reason to not play them. But if you're building multiple lineups and you end up with $3,400 or whatever, $9,000 for your last two spots, then I think that they're a decent way to round out, your 20 lineups. But if you're building one, yeah, I can agree with that. But they look good. I mean, the numbers, really, really like them tonight. So, all right. Final game of the night. So this is brutal because it's another one of those situations where Dallas 1 looks great. They were ridiculous last night. They should have had 6 goals in the first 2 periods. They just kept getting robbed. But I don't think Roope Hintz plays tonight again. So as I mentioned last time, I didn't think he was going to play. He didn't. So this year he's played in 2 of 8 back-to-backs. So chances are he's not playing. It's another 3 and 4 night situation. So chances are he's not playing. On top of that, he got crushed 2 or 3 times last night. Was slow to get up a couple times. So I would imagine this is another night where he sits. I can't just, guess that he's sitting and build the tool without him, because then if he plays, then I'm just doing a disservice to everybody who pays for this. So I have to include him and hope that he plays. But if he doesn't, that line's still fine. Dickinson will move up into that top line spot. Tanner Kira will probably replace him on the Jamie Ben Gurionov line. So it's much smaller sample size, but that Dickinson, Robertson, Pavelski line has really not missed a beat. Obviously, Dickinson is not Rupe Hintz, but they've been solid. So if he doesn't play, I wouldn't be scared. But the problem is, if you do play them, you got to be very smart about your lineup construction, right? Because it's the last game of the night. There's no other game going on. So it's like, if he doesn't play, then you got 6,200. So like, to me, what you basically have to do is hope that he plays, obviously, but play like you'd have to play another Stars or Carolina defenseman, and then if he doesn't play, pivot to Heiskanen and Dickinson is kind of, I think, the only way you can do it. Like, obviously, there's many ways you can do it. Do whatever you want. But I don't think he plays. I really don't. So just be prepared for that. But if he does, they look really, really good. Carolina 1 looks solid as well. Dallas 2 continues to play very well. I mean, Jamie Benn was a monster last night. He had 4 points. So, shout out to him. Dallas 2 continues to play very well. They're very reasonably priced. I'm probably not going to chase a 4-point game from Ben, but that line continues to put up very impressive numbers. The problem is it has a ripple effect if Hintz doesn't play. If Hintz doesn't play and Dickinson moves up and Tanner Kiro replaces Dickinson, that line's not quite as good with Tanner Kiro. Sorry, Tanner Kiro's family, but he's just not as good. So matchup-wise, Dallas 1 against Carolina 1. Dallas 2 will see a lot of the Jordan Staal line. Dallas 3, the Faxa line, will see a lot of the Martin Necas, Vincent Trocheck line. So yeah, Dallas ridiculously good defensively. Carolina ridiculously good offensively. Something's got to give. To me, I don't know what to do with this game because of Hintz. I think I really like Carolina 1 again. I like Svechnikov last night. He had a pretty nice night. Aho 6,500. I do like them as a mini stack, especially if Hintz doesn't play. So I do like Carolina 1 tonight. But it's hard to really get excited about anything else, to be honest with you. The Faxa line going head to head with Trocheck really kind of takes them out of the game. Jamie Benn's line going against Jordan Staal really takes Staal out of it. So to me, if you want to play Carolina, the only option is Aho and Svechnikov. And then obviously there are a couple of cheap defensemen that are still underpriced for whatever reason. Slavin at 3,900 and was Petsy at 3,500. So that's probably as far as I'd go with the Hurricanes tonight, just because the matchup is not very good. Stars are playing very nice hockey right now, even if Hintz doesn't play. But if Hintz doesn't play, Carolina 1 definitely gets a bump. So they would be the one that I would play in this situation. And then, from Dallas' perspective, I'm operating under the assumption that Hintz will not play, at which point I don't know if I like Dallas 1 that much. Like, I'm okay if I'm playing them and taking the gamble that he plays and pivoting to Dickinson and Heiskanen. I'm completely fine with that. But with Dickinson up there, I think they're still an okay option. They're just not as good as these numbers would suggest. So it's a very difficult situation, obviously. And then obviously with the power play here, Carolina looks pretty solid. They've got a very nice power play. The Stars penalty kill is very average. On the other side, the Stars have a good power play, but the Hurricanes have a great penalty kill. So I'm not a huge fan of the Stars tonight. Vegas, tends to agree, just 2.7 implied goals for. Carolina only at 2.9. So another game, it's hard to really figure out. 2 very good 5v5 teams and just doing battle. But to me, Carolina 1's probably my preferred option. If Hintz plays, I do like Dallas 1 again, but I just don't think he's going to. So Carolina 1 for me would be probably the best option. If we flip back over here to 5v5 board, I bet you this new logo stuff is going to really mess this up. Oh, yeah, dude. What is this? Oh, gross. Anyways, this is what it looks like. Florida 1, Florida 2 look outstanding. Dallas 1 with Hinson looks great. New Jersey 1 looks really, really good. Pittsburgh 1 grades out great. I don't know what to do with them, to be completely honest with you. Kind of ignore all these colors. They're all messed up. But, that's that. Let's go over to the goalie board now. What do we have? 15 minutes already. We got a scurry. So, unsurprisingly, Andrei Vasilevsky in Chicago grades out as the best goaltender on the slate. Igor Shesterkin versus Buffalo looks outstanding. Jari and Rask both look good. It's just very difficult to figure out who's going to win that game, so it's hard to pick between the two. Jonathan Bernier, 7,100, looks outstanding as a punt option in net. Alex Nedeljkovic in Dallas grades out pretty well. He still leads the NHL in save percentage last time I checked. So, to me, though, it's two very obvious goalies at the very top. Three very obvious goalies, I guess I should say tonight. I love Vasilevsky and Shesterkin. They're two most expensive goalies on the slate. It's not saying much, but the goaltending is a little weird tonight. There's a lot of toss-up games, so you get a lot of security with those two. And then if you're paying down, you might as well just go all the way down to Jonathan Bernier. If you do want to go to the middle of the pack, I do like Semyon Varlamov. I mean, the Capitals are not, they're not that great at 5v5. The Islanders are a very good defensive team. The Capitals power play is obviously not the same thing without Alex Ovechkin. So my four favorites would be Vasilevsky and Shesterkin at the top, all the way at the bottom, Jonathan Bernier, and then right in the middle, Semyon Varlamov. And then outside of that, a lot of these guys are very risky options. So that's that for that. But yeah, let's get to a couple defensemen now really quickly before we head out. It's almost 6:15. So I mentioned Adam Fox on the top, obviously 7,100, super expensive, but Rangers power play looks great. If you can fit Dougie Hamilton in with Aho and Svechnikov, great. If not, those other two defensemen, Pesce and Slavin I mentioned, are way cheaper, and you can definitely get them in. I don't know if I want to pay up all the way for $6,300. Ivan Provorov, but he's been playing pretty well. Obviously, huge advantage in the power play for the Flyers tonight, so I do like him. It just seems a little too rich for me at that price point. I don't know what. This makes me laugh. It's completely off topic, but makes me laugh every single time. Yes, Wyatt Kalynuk still looks good, if that's how you pronounce his name. I'll get to him in a second. But I don't know what Draftkings is doing. Like, they have, I don't think they know who Sebastian Aho is from the Islanders, because he's played one game this year. And he's $4,700. He hasn't played since, when was it? March 18th. And his price just keeps going up. So I don't know if they know who he is. But yeah, anyways, Ryan Ellis still far too cheap if you want to play the Predators. He hasn't been that outstanding, but he's still playing 23 minutes a night. He's Ryan Ellis. He's 4,600. I like that price. I don't like the Sabre sniper. Rasmus Dahlin continues to just play so much better since Ralph Kruger got fired. Played 27 minutes the other night, so I like him at 4,200. I still like Mackenzie Weegar. He let us down last night a little bit, only 4.3 points, but plays a ton. They have a really good matchup tonight. So I like going back to Weegar. And actually, I don't know. I forgot to mention this. So Patrick Hornqvist didn't play last night. He is probably going to come back in tonight. I think they're just going to start resting him back-to-backs. They did it last week. I think it's the same situation. So he's probably going to be back in. So right now, if you look on dailyfaceoff.com, we have Sam Bennett, Nikita Gusev, all those guys in the top power play unit. I would imagine it's Gusev that gets bumped in favor of Hornqvist, so just keep that in mind. If Hornqvist does play, that Gusev probably is on the top power play unit, or Bennett, one of the two. But I'd imagine it's Gusev because that's what they did last game. And Weegar did see PP2 time yesterday, but if Hornqvist comes back, I imagine that won't stick. So yeah, Slavin. I still like Will Butcher. So long as Ty Smith doesn't play. Ty Smith is a game-time decision. If Ty Smith plays, Will Butcher will not be on the top power play unit. But if Will Butcher is on the top power play unit, I do still like him. He's been playing a ton. But I imagine he'll get bumped to the second unit if Ty Smith comes back tonight. Brian Dumoulin's been really good. It's just hard to play him when Cody Ceci has been lights out. He's still just 3,200. I'm obviously not one to expect Cody Ceci's recent run of points to be sustainable, but I mean, he's red hot. So if you want to get behind that, the problem is he offers no floor if he doesn't pick up an assist. So to me, Brian Dumoulin's still a little bit of a safer option, but neither one are all that terrific. Keith Yandel, I think, is still somewhat in play. His minutes are always a question mark, but he is still a quarterback of the top power play unit. Denisenko is in. That's interesting. I wonder who comes out. I'll have to get to that once I get off of here. So yeah, moving along really quickly here as we go through. Jamie Alexiak, still always one of the favorites. Ryan Lindgren, definitely always in play. He just, he's not always that outstanding, but he still plays with, actually he's not with Adam Fox right now. So that's a question mark. I don't like him quite as much. Zach Jones, to me, is still a half-decent punt. I wish he played a little bit more, but he's probably going to continue to see more minutes. Keandre Miller, 3,700, looks solid for the Rangers if you can't pay for Adam Fox. We mentioned Wyatt Kalynuk earlier. He just continues to rack up points for whatever reason and block shots and hits. So I like Kalynuk as well. I don't know if I'm saying his name right even, but he looks fine. If you want to play the Red Wings tonight, I can get behind Dennis Cholowski at minimum price on the top pair right now. His team power play time. So there's a lot of those cheap defensemen at the bottom tonight. But it's a very weird night. There's some very tight games, some very big question marks as to who's going to win some of these games. So do you pay for the top lines or do you not? I'm not sure. I'm probably going to try to avoid them, but once I start building, maybe not. But good luck to everybody tonight. Please smash the like button on your way out. Hopefully you all return with more money in your bankroll tomorrow than you had tonight. Good luck. See you guys back here tomorrow, same time, same place, 5:15 p.m. Eastern.